Okay, so today I wanted to kind of go through my stretching routine. I know in my last video that I did on squat mobility and how I fixed my squat, I mentioned that I would kind of go in detail through how I do my stretches, and because I mentioned that that was a big part that improved my squat, so let's get into it. So I normally do this in a gym. I do normally have like a mat that kind of helps, because some of these hurt my knees a little bit. So I would recommend using a mat if you have access to one. If not, you could always do like a blanket or a towel. I'm on a rug. It's not the most comfortable, but work with what you got. So the first stretch I always do is, it kind of works my hamstrings and my adductors. So before we get into it, actually, some of my weak points happen to be my hips, my hamstrings, and my adductors. They're all very tight, not good flexibility, not good mobility, whatever you want to call it. So a lot of my stretches are aimed towards those specific areas. If those areas are not something you need to work on, you don't have to do this. This is just what I do. It's what's helping me. I also haven't been stretching for that long. Routinely, I've gotten better at sticking to a routine the past few weeks, and I have seen some improvements, but I'm still not that flexible, so I'm getting there. We can kind of work on this together and watch our improvements over the next couple weeks or months, however long. Hopefully months. Hopefully I stick to it for a while, because I really want to improve my flexibility. I used to be way more flexible, and then I think I stopped doing sports and just started only doing lifting, and just it all went away. So yeah, the first stretch I always start with, I don't know why I do, but I just always start with this, is I put one leg out to the side, tuck this other leg into my thigh, and lean. I don't necessarily always grab my toes. I feel like that's a little bit harder to pull myself down. So I actually grab my ankle or the bottom of my foot, either or, and kind of pull myself. I found that if I ankle my toes outwards a little bit, it helps stretch out my adductor, which I need. So I try to do that. And I hold each stretch. It kind of depends. If the stretch is really intense, I'll hold it for like 30 seconds or 45 seconds. If I'm not pulling quite as hard and there's not quite as an intense of a stretch, I might do like a minute and 15 seconds. It kind of just depends on how hard I'm stretching. And you can always kind of fidget with each of these. Angle your feet differently, angle your hips differently to wherever you feel a good stretch. Okay, and then obviously do the other side. My weak side is my left side. I probably should like stretch my left side more or for a longer amount of time or something, but I don't. But maybe that's something I'll work on. I know it's not good to have imbalances. Obviously, I know everybody has some sort of imbalance. Nobody is totally perfect on both sides, whether it be like strength or flexibility. So again, I'm kind of pulling from my ankle, not my toes. If you want to do your toes, you can. If you can't touch your toes, it's also fine. You can pull from really anywhere in your leg, or if you have a table or something, you could use that to help too. Okay, so the next stretch I do is, I think it's called a butterfly stretch. I don't remember. I'm getting that from gym class, so don't quote me on it. So to do this stretch, you just put your feet together in front of you, drop your knees, and kind of, I grab the front of my ankles, kind of pull my chest forward, my whole like torso forward a little bit. That helps me feel a good stretch. And then also you can push down on your knees. The further your feet, no, the closer your feet are to you, the harder the stretch is going to be. I typically do like right here, push down a little bit, but I mostly am pulling myself forward, and that is where I feel a really good stretch. I think something that is very important for stretching is actually to make sure you're relaxing. Sometimes I catch myself like kind of holding myself back from getting the full stretch because like it hurts a little bit. So like this one, say, I might be like holding my knees up higher than I actually need to and not just relaxing them into the stretch. So I think that something that can help with this is focusing on your breathing. Just trying to really relax everything in your body. And I think sometimes if you focus on your breathing, it helps you take your mind off the stretch or like tensing up to avoid the little bit of pain that it might cause. And I think that can definitely be beneficial, so you get the full benefit of the stretch. Okay, the next stretch I do is like a straddle, I think, or a middle split. You could use a table or like a squat rack or something if you want to kind of prop one leg out or prop both your legs out. I know they actually have these like stretchers that you can like put your thighs on and it'll crank your legs out. I don't have one of those. I also would be terrified to use that because my adductors are so tight. It would probably hurt really bad. So this is the next one I do. You can stretch like this. You can kind of pull yourself forward, but I've actually found that it works better for me if I prop my hands behind my back and try to keep my torso upright, but then push myself forward and really sit into my hips. That is where I feel the best stretch. But again, if you feel it better by like leaning forward more, go for it. For me, if I lean and pull myself forward, I just end up rounding my back and not actually getting as much of a stretch, so. Okay, so the next stretch I do is, I think it might be called a pike. I'm not totally sure. Don't quote me on that either. I'm realizing that I really don't know the names to any of my stretches. I just do them. But I touch my toes while I sit down. Well, I take that back. I like grab my ankles. Again, it's easier for me to pull myself from my ankles, but I pretty much am touching my toes. Make sure you kind of keep if you can, keep your legs flat to the floor. If you bend your knees, you're not going to get as much of a stretch. So this is the neck stretch. So I put one foot kind of directly under my knee. It's kind of like under my chest. Other foot is extended behind me. And then I lean. So that this knee, go back up a little bit. So that this knee goes over my toe and I'm getting a really good ankle stretch. Try to keep your heel on the ground so you can get a better stretch. This also stretches out your hip flexors a little bit, I think, on the back leg. This is one of those stretches that I was talking about earlier that kind of hurts your knee. My back knee, I mean, it's fine, but it hurts a little bit. It's not super comfortable being on the hard floor. And then keeping my feet and like my legs in the same spot, I transfer my weight onto my back leg and I kind of sit down into it and kind of lean. I feel a really good stretch through my calf, my hamstring, and then into my glute a little bit. It's kind of just like a different variation of touching your toes, just like single leg. If you kind of lean forward and almost like push your heel into the ground, it helps you feel a better stretch. And the next leg. So again, putting that knee kind of like right below me, right over my foot, getting the back leg behind me, and then leaning forward into it. And then leaning back. My left side is so much less flexible, it's crazy. So really leaning forward, pushing through that heel to get that good stretch. Also, the timing on these stretches is probably not very accurate. I don't have my phone. I'm recording on my phone, so I'm kind of eyeballing it. And I'm probably gonna speed them up anyways because it's boring to just watch me silently stretch. But like I said, the timing can be different for everything. If I'm pushing really hard, it'll be a little bit shorter. If I'm not pushing quite as hard, a little bit longer. I just kind of do whatever feels right, but I would try to keep it equal for both sides. Don't like stretch one side for like 5 minutes and then the other side for like 30 seconds because you saved it for last. You do want to make sure you do the same for both sides. Okay, so I did that leg. So the next stretch I believe is called 90-90. I think that's what it is. This one is aimed at like your hips, your hip mobility and flexibility. This has helped my squat a lot. It helps with your hip rotation, so your internal and external rotation. So to start, you're gonna put one, so like facing forward, one of your femurs or thighs is gonna be facing directly in front of you with your knee bent to about 90 degrees, and then the other leg is gonna go directly out to the side. And then that other knee is also going to be at 90. So you're gonna have 90 at both knees, and then also your femurs are going to create a 90-degree angle. And then for this stretch specifically, I feel like it really depends on the person, on where you're gonna feel the stretch the most and where you should focus it the most. For me, I feel it the most in this back or like side leg, in this part of my hip. So I kind of tailor it to that specific area. I kind of lean back a little bit and then over a little bit over that hip, and I kind of push slightly to get a better stretch. But if you feel more stretch in this leg, in the front leg, the front hip, then focus more on that. You can kind of just mess around with it, experiment, and see what part is definitely tighter in your hips and then work on that area. It should be obvious because it'll probably hurt more. You don't want any like bad type of hurt though, just like the good stretching type of hurt. So I'm really focusing on leaning into this hip. And then the other side. So again, I have one leg in front of me, 90 degrees. The other leg to the side, also 90 degrees, and then 90 degrees here. And so now I'm pushing into this leg and this hip. And this is one of those stretches that like I kind of love it and kind of hate it because it hurts, but it also hurts in a good way. I don't know, something about stretching out my hips is like very love-hate relationship. There's also another variation to this stretch where you go from one side to the other without like moving your body. So actually, let me shift so I can do it and stay on camera. So to go from this side to the side I already stretched, you want to keep your feet in the same spot. You want to shift all your weight kind of to your butt, and then you're going to lift your knees, like stuck on my sweatshirt. You're going to lift your knees, but try to keep your butt in the same spot. It's hard for me at least. And then drop, and then you're stretching the other side. I feel like that kind of helps you gain control and get some movement through the stretch, which is definitely a good thing. It might be a little bit more advanced for some people. I'm not super advanced in the hip area, and I can kind of do it, so you might be able to too. When I first started doing this though, I definitely moved way less gracefully and moved around way more trying to get from side to side. So if you first try it and your like butt moves and you have to adjust your feet after, that's totally fine. Just keep at it and you'll probably end up getting it. Okay, so I do that one, and then this next stretch is going to be kind of hard for me to do here because in order to do it, I normally hold like the part of a squat rack or whatever is near me, some type of like pole or beam that's stable and I can like pull on. I sit all the way down into a squat, hold whatever it is, and like kind of pull my torso forward. I'm gonna try to use this table that's right here, but I believe it's going to slide. So I might fall, but we'll see. I'll try it just so I can show you guys. Get into a squat stance, and then really can't hold on to this very well, but kind of pull yourself forward. You can shift from foot to foot, kind of stretch your knees all the way out to the side. Oh boy. Stretch out your ankles. All right, yeah, the table is sliding, so I'm gonna fall. The table started to slide, so I was gonna fall, but I would hold that for way longer, obviously. I kind of shift my weight from foot to foot, kind of pull my knees out to the sides to stretch my hips. I just do kind of whatever feels right, honestly. Next, this is one of my few like not leg focused stretches. I honestly just kind of go, like I go if I'm almost gonna do a push-up, but then I lay down halfway so that my thighs are on the floor, and kind of squeeze my butt so my hips go into the floor more, and just push up with my arms. I think if you look up, it's better. Stretches out my lower back a lot, which is good. It feels nice. My back definitely needs some work. It's very much not flexible. I'll probably start incorporating some more stretches into my routine. But yeah, so I hold this for however long, and then I actually kind of stay in the same spot, lift my butt up, and kind of shift my weight back onto my knees and my calves. My hands do slide, but keep them as far out as you can, and it kind of stretches out your lats. It feels really nice. And then I kind of, my hair's in my face, but I kind of go back and forth. Guess I'm just gonna eat my hair for a minute. I go back and forth between these a few times. Really try to, I found that squeezing my butt helps me push my hips down more and get more of a stretch. Back. So yeah, that is my stretching routine. I typically kind of cycle through all of those anywhere between 2 to 4 times. It depends on how much time I have, how intense the stretches are, and kind of how motivated I am, I guess, or how stiff I feel. Sometimes if my legs are super sore, I don't stretch as much. Yeah, I rotate through those. Sometimes I skip a few. Sometimes I do some random like shoulder stretches or chest stretches, or like these, whatever these are called. But I'm probably going to try to start incorporating some upper body and back focus stretches into my stretching routine, or I might kind of have a lower body focus day and then an upper body or back focus day, because it might end up taking up too much time to do all at once. But when I do, I will kind of keep you guys updated. I might do another video on some upper body stretches if I start doing that. It's not good to neglect one part of your body, so don't do what I'm doing at the moment. Oh, disclaimer, I'm not a professional. I'm not saying that this is what you should do. This is what works for me. It's what I like to do for my specific needs and weaknesses. You can tailor your own stretching routine to your needs and weaknesses. If yours happen to line up with mine, perfect. If not, that's fine too. But either way, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.